Good afternoon, John. John
Hey, Marty.
Donovan.
Hey, how you doing?
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a whole 2 days here.
Yeah. For those of us who haven't been following our adventures, we had the opportunity to spend a couple of weeks in Costa Rica and got back earlier this week. It's Friday afternoon, the day after St. Patty's Day when we're recording this. Marty
Mhm.
Keller here in Sacramento, John Donovan in Oceanside, back in our regular perches.
Yep.
And, you know, before we get into the meat of the topic or the topic of the day or whatever, I do have to say one of the things that I noticed in taking a couple weeks and going out of country is, and I was sharing this with our group last night, that wherever I go, there I am. And I noticed personality flaws. I'm going to call them flaws. Things about myself I don't like. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And by golly, they're the same things in Costa Rica as they are here in
Yeah.
California.
Yeah. Yeah.
But being in a different environment actually gave me the opportunity to look at them differently and to create a different relationship with them. And so that was part of a learning curve for me. Like, yeah, particularly when I'm around powerful personalities. I spent time with you and with our mutual friend, Victoria, and then she introduced us to other powerful personalities that we got to spend some time with. And I found myself comparing my personality with these other people and seeing where I created that I fall short of what I see in others as doing it well, doing themselves well. And
Wow.
I started laughing. It's like, well, you know what? I give myself permission to not be the same as other people.
Yeah.
But what I want to share with us is that I actually noticed that. It's like I'm comparing old habit of mine, comparing myself to other people. And this time, by virtue, maybe again, just by virtue of being in a completely different environment, noticing that I was doing that, picking up on that fairly quickly and being able to basically give myself permission to be who I am.
Yeah.
To use a Donovanianism, to revel in my character defects.
Yeah. Yeah. But the first part of nurturing is notice.
Yep.
You can't nurture something unless you notice it. And me noticing my character defects is the first step to nurturing myself through or to whatever it is I intend to, with the recognition of this specific character defect. Oh, it is my intent to be, and then state the intent.
Right.
So, it's also the experience of unconditional love from myself, because I'm out of the blame and judgment. I just, there I did it again. Yep. I'm being judgmental again. It is my intent to be compassionate. I went to a workshop one time, and the facilitator, was short in my recovery, but I was only about 3 or 4 years in recovery. And the facilitator of the workshop said the things that we would experience in the workshop. And he actually said, you will experience unconditional love. And I listened to that and I think, oh, this guy's full of shit. This guy, okay, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to show this guy. And, I walked away from that, and it just hit me like I experienced unconditional love from other people. I still wasn't able to give it to myself, but those people were just, no matter what I said, they'd say, okay, John, and what do you want? And just blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this earlier or before on this podcast, that this experience that we're leaning into through accountability is going to show up in ways that we really don't have, we can't predict.
Right.
And in particular, it seems to me that I spent a whole life, much of my life, romanticizing what this enlightenment should look like.
Yeah.
Romanticizing what love should look like.
Yes.
romanticizing what perfection should look like.
Yeah. Oh my
And my
God.
experience is it's nothing like that. As a matter of fact, it's like the opposite of an explosion of fireworks. It's actually calm, quiet, um, featureless in a certain way. It's like if I in Costa Rica, when I was noticing myself being judgmental of myself and other people, I just was able to go, you know what? There it is. I'm going to allow myself to be with this. I don't like it, but I'm not. There's nothing wrong. Just the fact that I don't like it doesn't make it wrong.
Right.
And when I did that, I was able to come up with a new intention out of just being present with a recognition of myself and recognizing that I didn't like it, recognizing that I was judging myself, and just being with it, not trying to change it, not trying to dramatize it, just like, oh, okay, wow, look at that. Okay, well, what do I want here?
Yep.
And in doing that, I actually came up with an unexpected intention. It's like, well, that makes sense. And I couldn't have done that without going through the process through self-acceptance. And it was no big deal. It wasn't dramatic. It was just matter of fact.
Yep.
Oh, look what's going on. Okay. And I'm really grateful for that, because as I listen to other people and as I look at my own life, I noticed that there's so much of what we experience is this constant inner warfare. Should, not working, wrong, bad. And learning unconditional love is to the capacity to have no conditionality about any of that stuff, including I'm at war with myself. Okay. I don't know how to stop this. Okay, well, what do I want? And just doing the process over and over and over again.
Over and over and over again. I tell people to envision what they want, like inner peace. Create that vision, and then create the intent. I intend to have inner peace. Now, I tell them, when you get to inner peace, it's not going to look like what you just envisioned. It's going to be inner peace. It's going to be itself.
Right.
I remember, I don't know how I tell the story. Usually I tell the story, somebody else saying it, but I think one time I said to somebody in the recovery, I'm bored. And they looked at me and they go, John, would you be willing to consider that this is the serenity you've been looking for? I thought, oh, no chaos, no drama, no screaming and yelling. Oh,
no shoulds.
No shoulds. I considered that boring.
Yep.
And it's like, no, serenity, absence of drama, absence of chaos, absence of that incessant internal critic going on and on. And I thought, oh my God, this is what serenity is. Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I think that's why the Bible refers to that as the peace that passes understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
That understanding, at least based on where we're coming from, is not going to get us there.
Our cognitive mind, our rational mind, works on deduction, point of reference, and then comparison, which is what it's for. I mean, it keeps us from bumping our heads on low-hanging objects. Okay, so
well, for the most part.
For the most part. And this emotional sense, this emotional being, this sense of peace is not deductive. It's what's the other one? Inductive. So it just accepts. It doesn't qualify anything. It's like, I'm feeling peace, and I hear the neighbor's radio. Oh, the radio's going off. It's like, and I maintain my peace. I either move to another room, close the window, or maybe like, oh, I wonder what station they're on. I might want to turn that on. You don't know. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's not contingent on anything outside of me. it can be disrupted by something outside of me, and then I have choice about what I want to do in that situation. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I got more I want to share on that, but first I'd like to talk about this new meeting we're starting.
Okay.
This coming Wednesday at 4:00 Pacific Daylight Time. We're calling it the Gut Check meeting, and it's nominally it's for people who are living with chronic illnesses of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
As I've shared before in the podcast, I've been living with Crohn's disease since I was 18, and there's diabetes, there's MS, there's all kinds of diseases that people live with, and we were having a conversation about this at the Rusty Nail meeting about 2 months ago, and a number of people spoke up and talked about their own experiences with some kind of ongoing syndrome or debilitation or something painful that comes and goes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And without characterizing this too strictly, it occurred to me, there might be some value in the accountability process to dealing with addressing the relationship between my thoughts and my health. Mm-hmm. And I thought of a guy named John Sarno, who was a medical doctor in New York City for many, many years, who did pioneering work in looking into the causes of back pain, particularly lower back pain. And he discovered in his work that many, many, many people who came to him with back pain suffered from repressed rage, and that the back pain was actually a manifestation of this unprocessed rage. In other words, a psychic experience was showing up as a physical ailment.
Yes.
And so the inquiry that this group is going to be invited to consider is what might my thoughts be about myself, my health, my right to be on the planet that may have contributed to an ongoing discomfort, illness, painful syndrome, whatever it is, just as an inquiry. Because if John Sarno was correct, and he later in life extended his analysis from back pain to chronic illnesses generally, if that's the case, then I hypothesize that accountability may have some value, in that accountability helps me go to an issue that I have been not seeing, go to an issue using my feelings, and create health by stating what I want instead. And that goes to what we were talking about a minute ago, unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Can I unconditionally love whatever it is that may be at the root of my physical ailment, the way I am willing to unconditionally love whatever I discover is a psychic ailment or a spiritual ailment, family of origin, dysfunction, childhood trauma. Mm-hmm. So I want to just chat about that a little bit and get some of your thoughts about these things and see where we go.
Very good, because that is my contention, that any disorder, any discordance, anything going on with me where I'm not at peace or at being proactive in my life, it's like, life happens and things happen and things come at you. And before I would melt down or blow up or seclude myself and become isolated. And Gabriel Mate, his contention, which is now mine, is that anything you can come up with on an emotional, physical, or spiritual level that's in discordance or painful is a result of unresolved, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. he says maybe there's 1% that's genetic, maybe. I agree with him. I'm not so sure it's as much as 1%. And anything that in my experience, because I used to have low back pain all the time. And when you mentioned your, relief, I know, well, I can tell you for the last 10 years, I haven't had the need to go to a chiropractor. Now I still go to a chiropractor for preventive and, adjustment. And I go to acupuncture for preventive and adjustment. But before that, I was like in bed for a week, or my back would go out, or my upper back would get a pain and I would be debilitated. And especially the upper back part hasn't happened. I don't know how long, maybe 10, 20, 15 years. And again, when you mentioned yours, it's like, yeah, I have resolved the trauma that was stuck in my body through teaching it and watching other people do it. And it would, be fortuitous for me, because that could be a thing that was still stuck in me. And I experienced, I'm 73 years old. I don't take any medication, pharmaceuticals. I am healthy. It's really worked really well for me. So,
it's a wide-ranging field, because even as you were just saying, I don't take pharmaceuticals or whatever. One of the books that we're going to be reading is this book by Joe Marchant called Cure: A Journey into the Science of Mind Over Body.
Right.
And she wrote this about 5 years or so ago. And it's basically a primer on various Western medical inquiries into this phenomenon of the relationship between thinking, emotion, the mind, and the body. And she starts out with the very fundamental issue of placebo. And she talks about placebo research. And placebo, of course, is a medicine that we take that has no scientific causation capability,
right?
Normally called a sugar pill.
Yeah.
And rather than a powerful medicine with certain chemical composition that's designed to relieve or heal or whatever a physical ailment, placebos are often used in double-blind drug development, because the pharmaceutical companies want to be able to prove to the FDA, at least from an American perspective, the efficacy and safety of their product. And so placebos are one of the ways that we can demonstrate efficacy. And she talks about in this chapter, and I was thinking of my own experience dealing with medications. It's difficult to separate out the impact of placebo belief on the efficacy of the medication I'm taking. In other words, I'm given, so I take this drug called Aprezo for my Crohn's disease. My GI doctor prescribed this to me a number of years ago, and I've been taking it, I don't know, 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
And as I've shared, I haven't had any problems with flare-ups with this disease. It's an intestinal disease, for those of you who've never heard of this. It's it's in the same world as irritable bowel syndrome and other kinds of gastrointestinal chronic problems. And but I got to thinking as I'm reading this book, how much of my intestinal health is related to my belief that this medicine works.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. Maybe this medicine is a sugar pill. I mean, I've never opened the capsules and put them under a microscope and done a chemical analysis of it. And so it's an interesting inquiry to begin with. It's like, how much of our Western medical intervention works because there's an additional belief element to it that we bring to it naively. I mean, I didn't set out and set an intention to believe in the power of this medicine. I just assumed.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I call passive intentionality. I don't make a specific intention. I just make an assumption, which is an assertion of faith,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a focused assertion. It's this sort of, doctor says this will work. Mind goes, okay, this will work.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the med works without my mental consent, but maybe it works better with my mental consent. I don't know.
Yes.
This is just,
Yeah.
again, something we can take a look at as we get together and begin to investigate this relationship between our thoughts, our feelings on the one hand, and our physical health on the other.
Mm-hmm. You know, part of what you're going to do when you do that meeting is put a disclaimer in there about, and I'd like to mention that now. We're talking about the power of healing or accountability or moving through stuck emotions, and then the physical effects of that. I am not saying that this is clinical. I don't have clinical proof. Now, if somebody's under a doctor's care, please just listen to your doctor and explore another option. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not clinical. I do have my experience, and I share that experience with people who want to try the accountability process. So
yeah, it's a good point. We're not medical professionals here. We're not making any assertions of truth about this. We're just in an inquiry.
Right.
And it's an inquiry that increasingly is being taken up in more controlled ways in different clinical settings, in university hospitals and other medical inquiries, because the evidence that there is a relationship between our thoughts and our feelings on the one hand and our physical well-being on the other is growing. And the more the inquiry is made under, again, Western scientific controlled methodological approaches, the body of evidence is only increasing, it's not decreasing.
Yeah.
And so, yes, much of this is controversial, and it's understandably so based on the history of the development of Western science and the notions of objectivity and the importance of so-called objectivity to some of these inquiries. And yet each one of us is a subject. And so we're bringing our subjectivity into our lives, even as we may seek to find objectivity in certain inquiries.
Right.
And so I appreciate the point. This is not a group run by doctors, nor is there going to be any diagnosing or prognosing going on.
Right.
Just an opportunity to ask some questions and try some things.
Right.
In terms of, again, what's the opportunity for the accountability practice to demonstrate efficacy in respect to not just emotional health, but also physical health. And I assert, this is one man's opinion, but I'm not alone in it. I assert that this is possible because the body and the mind are one thing.
Yeah.
There's not the mind and then the body. No, it's a body mind. And therefore there's utter integration between the physical corpus and the mental process that the physical corpus supports, particularly through the brain and the activity of the brain. And so that's why these things have viability, because there really is only one thing going on. And I would actually personally assert there's body, mind, soul, that's actually the entity. Yeah. Which is why we have access to the divine in the same way that our thinking has access to our physicality and vice versa. Yeah. one of the things that I've been ruminating on is to start to take the way that the placebo seems to work, which is this I'm going to call it naive faith in the power of the medicine that we're given to produce the effects that are predicted. So it's a naive faith. It's an acceptance of something without examining it too closely.
Yep.
And
go ahead.
Just finish my thought, and to compare that to focused intentionality. What would happen if I said, this medicine increases my health? I intend to let this medicine do its best. It's something where the intention is specific as opposed to a background or a passive faith relationship.
Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned a naive, I don't know what the other words were, but see, that's what happened to me as a child. I was naive. Mm-hmm. So when somebody said, you're not doing that right, there's something wrong with you, I naively took that in. It became a subconscious belief because it doesn't make any sense, because I am capable, I'm strong, I do this, I work well. And yet this information that was given to me is gnawing at my inner self and manifesting in what we call self-sabotage, or shooting myself in the foot, or self-criticism. And I naively took that information in as a child, and it became my belief, subconscious, and I had no idea it was even there.
Yeah, so as you say that, it just makes me chuckle that even today in our 70s, that so much of the way I go through my life is based on a naive acceptance of reality that someone else suggested.
Yes. Wow, well put.
And again, nothing wrong with that.
No.
And oftentimes those suggestions are benign or maybe even benevolent, but they're not always, as no. You just pointed out.
Yeah, or maybe even helpful.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't learn all bad things. I mean, I'm capable. Some of the things I got from my parents have been fortuitous and advantageous to my work ethic and different things. So, yeah.
But it also points out the power of focusing our capacity to be aware into this via active focusing.
Yes.
Via direct inquiry and willingness to ask, is that true?
Yeah.
Or to ask, what's really going on? Because the work that we do here in the accountability practice and many other similar practices around the globe in many cultures is the act of mindfulness, the act of becoming present, the act of, I think you were saying something about this before we started, about the power of noticing.
Yes.
That noticing is the beginning. How did you put it? Noticing is the beginning of healing.
Of nurturing.
Nurturing.
To nurture anything, you have to first notice the thing. Like to nurture an infant, you have to notice that it's an infant. Then you simply, once you notice, then you go, oh, I know what this thing needs, this infant needs, because it's an infant. You act appropriately and nurture and give substance to, or care or comfort. If you notice a wounded animal, you act appropriately to the wounded animal. You notices the first part, and that was, I don't know how to say it, was skewed in me, because I didn't notice that I had a part in each relationship I was in. I just saw their part and thought, oh my God, I got to find the right woman. I hope she exists because these people are not cool. And I didn't notice that I participated either in a victim stance or I participated in a perpetrating stance, and I'm part of it. So once I started noticing that, I had power. I was empowered to create an intent to change it, to want something different. And that desire center, I intend to be a loving, caring, nurturing spouse, father, and participant in my community.
Well, you know, in the context that we're discussing this, it might be valuable to revisit why it is that the noticing gets its power when it is the noticing of a feeling or an emotional state. What? Because I can notice my thoughts,
Right. Well,
but
good point.
there's something transcendent when I can notice the feelings that may be accompanying those thoughts.
Yeah. Let me start off with feelings are physical.
Mm-hmm.
They're not airy fairy. They're in my body. They're sensations of tightness, sensations of tingly, sensations of expansion that is a physical experience. It's visceral, muscular, skeletal feelings, frequency. I was working with this young man one time and I asked him what he felt. And he says, you know, John, I'm doing okay. And I said, oh, I'm not asking you what you think or how you're doing. What is the feeling? And he just finally got to the point, I don't know. And I said, good answer. So I asked him, I said, what does it feel like when you have to go to the bathroom? And he goes, oh yeah, that's a feeling. And I went, yes, but it was like news to him. So then he could focus on his body, his upper chest, his arms, his head, his mouth, his jaw. And I said, what's the sensation in your body? And he got it. He got it. He was talking about having trouble. Somebody had kidnapped his daughter, and he got her back, but he was processing those feelings, which he didn't know what they were. So I said, okay, when your daughter got kidnapped, what was the feeling? And he said, terror. I said, where did you feel it in your body? And then he got, oh, it was in here, it was in my throat, it was in my chest, I clenched, and okay, so and we were able to work through those feelings now to where he could quit blaming himself for something he had no control over. It was amazing. And that's where I got feelings to, we talk about, oh, what do you feel? Well, no, in your body, because they're physical. Emotions are waves, invisible waves. When they hit our bodies, they become feeling tones. So I don't want to beat that to death, but I do want to beat that to death.
I was going to say, like, come on now.
It's like that is so foreign. It was foreign to me. That what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling good. I'm doing okay. I'm cool. No, what's in I had no idea that it was a physical sensation.
So it seems to me that this is the key observation that opens the door to the new gut check meeting.
Yes.
Because physical sensation is physical sensation, regardless of its intensity.
Right.
And therefore, if I'm having a physical ailment versus an emotional experience, it's all in my body.
Yes.
And it's all information that comes through the nervous system into this,
yes,
into the central processing unit.
Yep.
That where decisions are made about how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me that's the doorway to this inquiry about our about illness.
Yes.
Again, I don't know how to. I don't got the formula, and we're not there yet. At least I'm not. But I think that's the doorway because
Yes.
it gets me present with myself. And when I'm present with myself, the possibility of unconditional acceptance is right there. So, oh, okay, how do I feel? I feel horrible. I've got cramps in my stomach. My back is spasming. Okay, let's be present with that.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, as I've gone through desperate illness, hospitalization illness over the course of my life,
Mm-hmm.
what I can look back on now and see is that there's a recognizable thought pattern that happened every time, the same thought pattern, and it was a pattern that tried to take me out of the pain.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tried to take me out of the pain. But I remember one time, it wasn't long after I started working with you, and I was in the emergency room. My back gave out.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't stand up, and I ended up going to the ER because that was scary as hell. All of a sudden, my back didn't work, and I remember laying on a gurney there, waiting for something, and feeling this pain. And I remember going, wonder if I could just focus on this pain. I wonder if I could just be with it. And it was interesting. I could do it for about 10 seconds before it got too intense. But it was, again, beginning to shift my relationship with my body and my mind from oh, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop, which I didn't give up. I still wanted it to stop. But while I was waiting, maybe I was waiting for them to bring me a morphine or something. I don't know. I had that moment of insights like, well, what if I focus with all of my power on the spot where the pain is emanating? And it's like, well, I can do that. That was like entirely new for me.
Yeah.
After 50, 55 years or whatever of just, give me the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the painkiller. It's like, well, okay, but maybe there's something here for me to learn. And again, I'm laying in a gurney. I'm in the middle of this ER and kind of scary and all that stuff. And I still had the wherewithal to focus on that.
Yeah.
It's like a grace moment. So there is power, I think, in our willingness to be present with our body sensations.
One of the pieces of the material, I have what I call the 4 constants of relationship. Number 1 is focused attention. What are you focused on? Second one is own your projections, because everything I see in you is true about me. Move toward your pain is the 3rd constant. Now, that seems ridiculous to some people. It's like, no, you want to move away from your pain.
What, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And so I couch it and move toward your discomfort, move toward your feeling of frustration, stay in the feeling tone. Because what I understand now is that emotions and feelings, the frequency, the sensation, has information in it for me to move to my well-being, mentally, spiritually, physically. So with this new practice, when a anxiety comes up, instead of going, oh my God, what do I do? No, I go, oh, I'm feeling anxious. So I stop and pay attention to where the sensation is in my body and be with it. And something comes to me. An example of that, I was a day before a workshop I was going to do, and the thought of the workshop came up, and I felt this panic. I go, wait a minute. No, I do this. Whoa. Oh, I said, oh. So I was in my car. I pulled over, and I said, okay, I'm going to be with this panic, this anxiety. So I just took a deep breath, and I just said, because I know that feelings have information. So I said, what am I missing? What is the information you're trying to tell me? And the thought came to me, you're not ready. You're not prepared. And I said, oh, I thought I was. okay, I'm gonna go back over my material, and I'm gonna go back over the setup, and it left, and I went on my way. And I do that consistently now. If I'm feeling anxious or puny, inadequate, okay, okay, what's it trying to tell me? So I focus on it, and I get an insight. I can honestly say every time I get an insight, and then I move to resolution, and or I do what I need to do to take care of whatever that pain and or anxiety and or feeling is. I move to resolution. I haven't taken an aspirin in a long, long time, but before it was, oh, I have a headache. Okay, I'm gonna take an aspirin. I just thought about that. I can't remember the last time I had a headache now, but um, I believe that's all part of this global results that I'm finding in my life. It doesn't only affect my relationships, it affects my attitude, my physical health, my concept of self, and my relationship to people, places, and things. So I'm more at ease.
So what if so just extending your insight there to our physical ailments, what if we move toward the statement, I intend to revel in my physical ailment? So it was counterintuitive when I first heard you say, I intend to revel in my character defects. Well, if the pain is there to teach me something, if the pain is there to offer me information, if my lower back pain is there to offer me information, then rather than reject it, rather than try to find a way to get rid of it, to medicate it, what if I said, just like you did, so you had an anxiety attack, which wasn't a physical ailment in the sense of it generated a disease, although the evidence is that unhealed stress can turn into disease.
Yes.
Unresolved stress. So what if we began to shift an attitude toward I revel in my physical ailments and I intend to learn what they have to teach me?
Fantastic. I am a two-time cancer survivor. In 2010, 11, somewhere I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Then in 2011, 12, I got diagnosed with, because they were looking at my prostate and doing exams, and they found colon cancer. And at first I was terrified. I went into fear and, oh my God. And then something happened. I was, okay, nothing happens to me, everything happens for me. Oh my God. And something shifted. The first thought that came to me was, oh my God, cancer is not the boss of me. I determined I can take steps. I can do whatever I need to do. With the colon cancer, I went into surgery. I took care. And now that was, oh shit, it's been 10 years, 10, 11 years, and I'm cancer free. So it was a mixture of allopathic medicine and emotional work, nutrition, vitamins, supplements, and the deep emotional work that I did. So it was a combination of things. So yeah, move towards everything, and me getting cancer, I think, saved my life, because it changed my eating patterns. It changed my thinking patterns and resentment, internal resentment that I didn't even know that I had. It became a gift. So
it's almost like the title of Gabor Mate's recent documentary, The Gift of Trauma.
Yes.
Because, illness is a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It's trauma in the body. And so the trauma, and in fact, if I remember rightly, in that documentary, he actually was working with a guy that was struggling with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was one of the most moving parts of the whole piece was his commitment to helping that gentleman see what the gift was behind the physical ailment, behind the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy because I'm trained to like, cut it out, medicate it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
fix it, isolate it, all those kinds of things. And I don't want to make any of that wrong. It's just there's more to it. There's this human body mind is such a miraculous product of 3.5 billion years of the evolution of life on this planet. And we're still, maybe it just, yeah, I'm still I'm still relatively ignorant of all the gifts that I'm walking around in possession of.
Yes. Embodying. Yes.
Embodying and embodied by.
Embodied by. Yeah.
So again, that's one of the things that I think we can do in this new group is to, because we're going to call it about chronic diseases, then we have the permission to spend more time on it than we might in some of our other meetings. Although it could spill over because we'll probably have people attending both, and what we learn in one meeting could be appropriate for sharing in another.
Yes. And it boils down to there's something in me that's unresolved. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good.
So I'm looking forward to this journey, learning more. Appreciate your support in this.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and I'm excited when you told me about that. That never entered my mind to do a group specific to that. And when you said that, I go, oh my God, this is because I have my part. I have what I'm good at, and then I'm seeing the people that pick this up and start facilitating are specific to it and bring something that I can't bring. And it's just amazing. And that's what for me, this work is about empowering people, not getting people to do it correctly, or I have the right way to do it. Take what you learned from me and from Marty and Rodney and Daniel and Ruben and Duffy and whoever else we may join us, and then just empower yourself and bring your gift. It's like, wow, this is so cool. And it's like I got the basic material behind me, but I'm willing for that board to change completely, and things I've missed and added to it, and it's dynamic and fluid. If I say, okay, that board is the gospel, I just created the worst thing that can happen on this planet, which is another concretize, I got the right way. No, I don't. I have a way that works right now really well, and it's going to expand. If it doesn't expand, let's throw it out and start from scratch. Let's do something else. So, well,
we talked a little bit about this in Costa Rica, and we can pick this up next week. But there, and we've actually discussed this in other podcasts, but there's a purpose for doing this work, and that is to become free to live the life that we're choosing to live, and then live it.
And live it. And uniquely and specific to each individual, what that expression, what that authentic expression is, not cookie cutter, be this and you'll be a good person.
Right.
No. Yeah. Good.
So first I'm doing this so that I can feel the joy of living the life I choose to live. And then closely on the heels of that, if not immediately after that, is then choosing to do that in concert with other people who are making a similar choice.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more fun to do it with people than by ourselves. Although it's got to start with me.
Yeah. Yes.
And then we go, hey, this is something I've experienced. I'd love to hear your feedback. What happened with you? What are you learning? And so the practice is the practice. And
Yeah.
everyone who applies it is actually fortifying it by bringing his or her own new experience to it. It's very similar to the way you open your meetings, where you talk about the obstacles to what we want are everything we think and say and do, and everything we don't think, say, and do. And the minute we become aware of all that stuff, then it all changes.
Yep.
And that's the way this process also works at a macro level, I think, is that the more of us that are engaging ourselves with this process, looking into the truth of our actual being willing to own it, feel it, and then say what we want, somehow creates a shift in I'm going to talk like really woo airy fairy here, but somehow it creates a shift in the field that redounds to the credit of everybody doing the work.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I may have a personal benefit, but I'm not the only one benefiting from the work.
Right.
And so whatever unique experience or way to talk about it any one of us brings to it, it just enriches the work. That's my experience.
Yeah, and it's already happening. The majority, you look around at the condition of the planet, there's a war in Ukraine, there's things probably in Syria still going on we're not talking about because we're focused on the war in Ukraine, and then there's Somalia. And it's a race consciousness. I'm going to get mine first. I'm going to protect myself, and I need what you have. That's a race consciousness. So we have the result. We got wars all over. And I'm moving from that. And one way to say it is going from a concept of win-lose, winner, there's only one winner, to a concept of win-win, not equal, but everybody benefits some way, somehow, or everybody contributes, and see what happens. I don't know if I was real clear about that, but yeah. I see it the same way you do, that I'm adding something to the field that wasn't there before because of my ignorance or not knowing.
Right. Well, and to really complete the metaphysics of this, the beauty is it's already there in the field.
Yes.
But it's not conscious of itself. And this is the instrumentality by which it becomes conscious of itself.
I like that.
Through human beings.
Yeah.
Because the universe evolved to create this capacity for it to become conscious of itself. We are utterly and completely embedded in this universe. We are utterly and completely products of this universe.
And vital to its growth.
Right. And designed to do that.
Yeah.
And so, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about this in Costa Rica or another environment. We talked about standing on the shoulders of giants, and then we are providing shoulders for the next ones to stand on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's giants all the way up, all the way down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Very good.
Well,
yep.
Our time is coming to an end. Before we wrap up, just let everybody know if you want to attend any of our meetings. The Rusty Nail Club meets Mondays and Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. John's Digging in the Dirt meeting is on Saturday mornings at 8:30 Pacific Daylight Time. Ruben's meeting, what's it called? I saw the name of it last time.
Begin Within.
I love it. The Begin Within meeting meets on Tuesdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and the new Gut Check meeting will start next week, Wednesday, the 23rd of March at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I don't know if Cindy's going to be able to change the address or would put that up in the end card here. But if you want these meetings are all on Zoom. And if you want the Zoom address for any of them, including the new Gut Check meeting, just contact John or me. Our email addresses will be on the end card at the end of the podcast, and we'll be happy to send you the information.
Yeah, very good.
So as always, John, before we hit the end record button, see if you have any last minute thoughts.
I'm excited about the the capacity for this intentional living accountability tree process to affect, touch, reach more and more people, and it's happening, and I'm really excited and grateful, humble.
I'd say amen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, John, and we'll talk to you next week.
You got it.